let's get straight to this sell-off that is continuing apace now. Michael Antonelli is joining us. He's Baird PWM market strategist. And Mike, as we mentioned, it is the tech high flyers that are losing steam, continuing to lose steam here. Apple, Amazon, Facebook, all among the big declines that we're seeing today. Tesla, of course, as well, on not being included in the S&P 500. What's your takeaway here? Is this something bigger, or is it sort of a pause in the market momentum?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Julie. I do think it's probably just more of a pause. And I think there is a reason that we're seeing this kind of high flyer tech related carnage. And that's, my friend Ben Carlson said, it's impossible for expectations to stay in line with reality when you have an uber successful company. Think about all the super successful companies we've seen over the past 6 months, the stay at home stuff, the work from home stuff. People have been bidding them up. People just kind of get their expectations get way ahead of reality. And if you think of simply as the stock prices, expected future cash flows times what people are willing to pay for them, the second part kind of gets out of hand from time to time. And you get these sort of sharp, vicious corrections in these uber successful companies. And believe me, this has happened a lot in history, even to the Amazons and the Microsofts and the McDonald's of the world. This does happen from time to time. People just kind of get ahead of their skis on those expectations.
Mike, Dan Roberts here. I agree with you. A lot of these tech names just flew too high, and that's what we're seeing, a correction. And so I'd ask, there's no reason to be less bullish on these names in the near future, right? If you were before. And what I mean is, even before the pandemic, the tech names, really the FANG names, and then continuing through the pandemic with adding a few of the stay-at-home names, those were always kind of the soaring names. And you wonder if that's going to continue in the next year. I guess I'm really asking, could anything happen that would change the trajectory for the big tech names? And then while we have you, I'm curious what you make of the SoftBank report and the claim that a lot of the tech run-up was Massa's home.
Yeah, I was an institutional equity trader in my previous role. And, I traded for 12 years with these big institutions. It's hard to make a broad-based conclusion based on a story like that. We don't know kind of what strategies they're implementing. We don't know whether those calls were part of a short cover against a short position. You just don't know by that kind of stuff. It's always interesting to read in the media because we don't really get a lot of that kind of juicy institutional type trading. But I think that plus a little bit of retail call option trading probably put a little bit of this excess valuation into these names. What could change this? A vaccine, maybe a little bit more stimulus from the government could kick off a little rotation towards the industrials and the transports and the small caps. Maybe you get a little bit of that. It's not that these big successful tech companies are necessarily kind of done for the time being. They just kind of get re-rated, and they get re-rated viciously and quickly nowadays. So if you're into transports and small caps, you want this to happen. If you're into the tech companies, you just want the re-rating to be over quickly.
Mike, let's talk Tesla. What do you make of this plunge down 14%, getting snubbed, right, from being included in the S&P 500, and that was widely expected across the board? Can you sort of read the tea leaves here? Why weren't they actually embraced? We know Etsy is now part of the S&P 500. What do we make of this right now?
Yeah, I think when I look at Tesla, it just kind of represented this big kind of play on not only a great company and a great product, but also this inclusion in the index. If that was your catalyst, right? If Tesla's inclusion in the S&P was your catalyst, you were probably already on thin ice. That's not a great kind of catalyst for owning a company like that. Why they didn't choose them? It's going to be a great article. I hope some journalist gets out there and gets the kind of interview about that. But you just don't know with a company like this. Maybe it's the next quarter, maybe it's the quarter after that. But that disappointment goes to what I always like to talk to investors about, and that's expectations. If you set expectations impossibly high, it's easy to disappoint. And I think we're seeing a lot of that, not only in Tesla, but in these other tech names. What people are willing to pay for a stock, that second component of my simple stock formula, can get out of hand from time to time. And inclusion in an index is just not a great single reason to own a stock.
Yeah, there are a lot of maybe not great reasons to own single stocks like Tesla, perhaps, the bears would say. Mike, what are you doing right now? I mean, as we see this pullback, are you seeing this as an opportunity to add to some of these big cap tech names, or to add to a Tesla? Or are you looking at things like transports and small caps, for example, or all of the above?
I think it's a little bit of all the above, but I also I think I've said on here before, we always talk about tech. We come on Yahoo, we talk about tech. You go on a competitor, you talk about tech. There are other sectors in the world. Housing's a great sector. The transports have done very well. Industrials have done very well. Trucking as a sector has done very well. So we do get obsessed over tech because it's the hot thing to talk about. It's kind of the one juicy kind of topic that we love to kind of dig our teeth into. So there are other sectors. I want investors to know, especially your viewers and listeners, there are other sectors. You don't have to ride the roller coaster in Tesla. You can invest in housing and industrials and trucking. There's lots of great sectors out there. That's the great thing about the U.S. stock market. There's plenty of opportunity around. Don't get caught up in kind of the hot thing of the day and get burned.
All right. Words of wisdom from Mike Antonelli. Thank you so much, Mike. It's good to see you.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.